with defensive firearms instruction, and today I'd like to talk a little bit about duty belts, how to set those duty belts up, and some of the specifics that I think really need to be covered when it comes to duty belts. One of the first things I'd like to talk about is my duty belt that I have set up and how I specifically set it up and why. First thing I'd like to start out with is talking about the belt itself. There are nylon belts and there are leather belts. I decided to go with a nylon belt. Nylon is a little bit lighter and it makes a lot less noise than leather belts. Leather belts, you see a lot of county deputies wearing leather. I really think that nylon is easier to maintain, and I still think I can get a lot of use out of nylon belts. This specific one is a Bianchi Aki mold. One thing I really kind of like about this duty belt is it is set, and so it's got the Velcro on the inside, and they've got an inner belt that you can actually get to secure it a little bit more to your inner belt, which is going to prevent it from shifting around on you, especially if you're getting in and out of a vehicle. As far as the setup, with a lot of the equipment that's on here, I decided to go with a snap closure as opposed to a Velcro closure. I have had Velcro before as far as the pouches are concerned. The Velcro breaks down really quickly, and I really kind of like the snaps because I feel like it holds it in place a lot better. So let's go ahead and talk about the handcuff pouch and where I have my handcuffs. I really kind of like having a double cuff pouch. The double cuff pouch gives me the ability to carry two distinctly different types of handcuffs. I typically will carry a hinged set of handcuffs, and I will carry a chained set of handcuffs. I'll use my chain for compliant suspects, and I'll use my hinged if I need to wrestle somebody to the ground and get handcuffs on them that way. Typically speaking, I will carry the hinged up front and the chain to the rear. The reason I have my handcuff pouch all the way next to my buckle is if I, for whatever reason, am wrestling somebody to the ground, I don't necessarily know if I'm going to be able to pin them down with my right arm or my left arm. So I wanted to make sure that both my handcuffs were accessible by both my right and my left hand. The next thing I have on my duty belt right here, which would be my right side, is pepper spray. Now, I opted to go with 2 cans of pepper spray. The size that I like is the Mark III. I've realized that the Mark III is a lot easier when you're getting in and out of a vehicle, and it is, it's still a good size. I typically run Defense Technology products just because I like Defense Technology and Safariland Group. The two different types of pepper spray that I carry, I'll carry a foam pepper spray unit in the Mark III size, and I use that more for indoors. And then the second can of pepper spray is actually a stream, which is going to give me a little bit more range, and it's more for outdoor use. And so, I typically set it up like this, so it gives me options when I am deciding what type of environment I need to, use pepper spray in. The next thing past that is I've got my firearm. With holsters, there's a lot of different holsters out there. A big consideration is retention when we're talking about holsters. Pretty much the industry standard right now for law enforcement is Safarilands. I really like the Safariland Model 6280s because they are light bearing. And they come in, a wide variety of designs. But I think it really works out well, specifically because it's got this retention strap that you literally have to push down and then rock forward. So to the layperson, they may see this as some sort of a strap to unhook, and so it can actually help me maintain my firearm just a little bit better. And I also have a little guard right here, and so if somebody tried to access it from the front, it would be a little bit more difficult for them to hit this retention device. The light that I typically like using for my firearms is a Streamlight TLR1, or I like the TLR1S. Even though I have a light on my weapon, I always still have a secondary light on my belt just in case that one goes down, or if I'm dealing with a situation where I don't need to draw my firearm but I want my light. It's always a good thing to have. Next past that, I always carry 2 sets of gloves. This is actually a pager pouch, and it actually fits 2 sets of gloves really, really well. Generally speaking, when I get gloves, I like getting the Sharps gloves, the thicker gloves. They're going to protect you a little bit better, and I try to stick with white or medical blue. Past that, which would be on your left-hand side about your 4 o'clock, I usually have my radio pouch. Now, radio pouches, there's a lot of different designs on radio pouches. The one that I like getting is the one that actually has a little bit more range of motion. The cool thing about this one, and this is also Bianchi, is you have the ability to invert it and then take it off. And so if you are getting in and out of a vehicle, or if you are in a tight confined space, it's going to be a little easier to take it off and put it on. And if I want to put it back on, all I have to do is just kind of slide it back on just like this, and then rotate it. Next thing past that, I've got my flashlight. As far as the flashlight placement, if I have a firearm in my right hand, I want to have my flashlight accessible to my non-dominant hand. A lot of times, the firearms that I have carried in the past didn't have lights, and so I always get my flashlight on my support side so I can manipulate it and my firearm at the same time. Past that, I have my expandable baton. As far as expandable batons, there's a lot of different types of scabbers. There's a lot of different places that people put scabbards. I have mine between my magazine pouches and my flashlight, and I can cross draw it if I really want to, or I can grab it with my support hand and then transfer over to my dominant hand. The one thing I like about this specific scabbard is it can rotate, and so it can click into position. So yet again, if I'm getting in and out of a vehicle, I can rotate it forward just like this. If I need to draw, I can rotate it to another position. Past that, I've got my magazines. Personally, I like using open-top magazine pouches. This one specifically is from Safariland. Yet again, I really like Safariland's equipment. I chose a triple magazine pouch to go with, the duty belt, and a lot of it boils down to the amount of ammunition that I want on my person. As far as duty use, I typically want to make sure that I've got no less than 45 rounds on my person, between anywhere from 3 to 5 mags. And then as far as open top versus closed top, I really kind of think if I'm going to need to reload, it's something that's going to have to happen quick, fast, and in a hurry. And so open top gives me the ability to get a little bit faster of a reload. Now, this is the duty belt. We're going to go into a lot more depth in some of the other videos on the rest of this equipment, and so you can definitely check that out. The one last thing I want to mention before we conclude this video is keepers. I always run at least 4 keepers. Keepers are going to connect your outer belt to your inner belt, and that's really going to help you out with if you're moving around, if you're getting in and out of a vehicle, if you're drawing your weapon. A lot of times, if you don't have a way to secure that outer duty belt to your inner belt, it's going to float all over the place. So I typically will take 2 keepers. I'll run them right up front, and then 2 keepers in the back, and that's going to restrict a lot of movement, keep my equipment where I need that equipment to be. In conclusion, there's a lot of different ways that you can set up duty belts. This is the way that I have set up my duty belt, and this is why I set my duty belt up the way that I did. If you have any questions about duty belts, how to set those duty belts up, or equipment, feel free to leave a question or a comment in the section below. Also, if you are interested in getting licensed or trained to use baton, handcuff, pepper spray, or firearms, feel free to contact us directly at defensivefirearmsinstruction.org, and we'd love to see you in class.